Hi everyone, so Chris, Rebecca, and I will be going over what departmental overhead rate is, and just to briefly go over what plant-wide overhead rate is, which is a single overhead rate that a company uses to allocate all of its manufacturing overhead costs to cost objects or products, and it's most commonly used in smaller entities because they have a simple cost structure, and going off of that, departmental overhead rate is usually used by larger corporations or companies because they're more likely to have multiple diverse products with different processes, and the overhead costs are assigned to individual production departments in an allocation pool.
Next, I will discuss how to calculate the departmental overhead rate. Depending on the cost driver for the departmental overhead rate is calculated as estimated manufacturing overhead costs divided by the estimated cost driver. If we take the assembly department and estimate their departmental rate on the basis of direct labor hours, the rate is calculated as follows. Estimated manufacturing overhead costs divided by the estimated direct labor hours. After calculating the departmental overhead rate, calculate the applied overhead by multiplying the rate by the actual cost driver. So if we use the example of the assembly department, which calculated the overhead on the basis of direct labor hours, we will calculate the applied overhead by taking our predetermined departmental overhead rate and multiplying it by the actual direct labor hours that has incurred.
I'm just going to explain how to calculate the departmental overhead rate. So in a normal problem, you will be given a bunch of estimated information for two different departments. So for ours, it is the printing department and the packing department. And we have direct labor hours, machine hours, direct labor costs, and manufacturing overhead costs. In order to determine the departmental overhead rate, you take the estimated manufacturing overhead cost for each department and divide it by the estimated cost driver for each department. So for example, for the printing department, you take the estimated manufacturing overhead cost and divide it by the cost driver, which is machine hours. So you will have $17,450 divided by 3,830 machine hours. Next, once you have the departmental overhead rates calculated, you decide whether the manufacturing overhead cost is underapplied or overapplied. So in order to do this, you then receive the actual information for the entire year. So you will actually have all of the information that is completely accounted for the printing department and the packing department. So in our example, the actual overhead that was used in the printing department was $21,332. And then the applied overhead you have to calculate yourself from the departmental overhead rate that you just calculated for the printing department, multiplied by the actual machine hours that the printing department used, which was 4,236. So you multiply the rate, $4.56 per machine hour, multiplied by the machine hours, and you get $19,316.16. You subtract the actual overhead minus the applied overhead, and you get the underapplied or overapplied value. For this example, it is underapplied by $2,015.84. If you want to determine the total job cost of any job, it'll normally give you all of the information for the specific job. So for our example, we have 0.5 labor hours per job, 1 machine hour per job, etc. So then you will put everything out into a table of direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. The direct materials and direct labor per department are given to you, and then you have to calculate the manufacturing overhead given the information. So for example, for job 1, we determined the printing manufacturing overhead cost by using the departmental overhead rate that you calculated 2 slides ago times the machine hours used for job 1, which is 1. So for job 1, the manufacturing overhead in the printing department is just $4.56. Once you have everything completely laid out in the table and calculated, then you just total it up, and the total job cost is then in the right hand corner in the total column. So for example, for job number 1, it is $61.09. The real-life company that we use that actually uses departmental costing is a company called Olovee. It's a apparel company that runs out of my hometown, where they actually do use a printing and packing department in their facility in order to make the shirts and then eventually send them out.